You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard, and that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons, but I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's Ministries. You'll never be the same.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201. Welcome to Nicholas Hood III Ministries, a ministry of hope, spiritual inspiration, personal power guided by Christian love. May the power of God's Holy Spirit fall upon you as you sit back and enjoy today's program. I introduce you now to Pastor Nicholas Hood III.
I want to talk about finding your purpose in life. Finding your purpose. What has God really chosen for you to do? And what are the kinds of things that keep us from finding purpose? As in all cases, you can find an answer right in the Bible. In 1 Samuel chapter 24, in the life of David, I've been going through David's life from killing Goliath to now, today, in the 24th chapter. We see an interesting episode in his life. David has a relationship with King Saul that increasingly is devolving. It's increasingly becoming more dangerous. It's increasingly becoming more destructive and harmful. And so David leaves, and he just goes into hiding. He flees, and he goes to a place where I think he probably knew as a child. It's called the Caves of Adullam. And at the Caves of Adullam, which is a series of caves in southern Israel, near Bethlehem, where David grew up, he goes into the caves, the Bible tells us, with 400 men, but there are others. His mother is with him. His father is with him. His 3 older brothers are with him. And they go into the cave for safety. And there in the cave, they are marking time. They don't know what to do. He doesn't know how dangerous Saul might be. He doesn't know exactly where Saul is, but he knows that Saul is trying to kill him. And so he's gone into hiding in the cave. And while in the cave, the Bible also refers to the cave as the stronghold. While in the cave, a holy man, identified as the prophet Gad, comes to the entrance of the cave, and he calls on David to come out. And he says, David, it's time to leave the cave. It's time to leave the cave. And at that point, David leaves the cave. He takes his mother and his father to the king of Moab, which is in their family lineage. And he goes, the Moabites, who you read about in the Bible, he goes to their king and he asks that his mother and father be allowed to stay there until he can find out how things are going to really shake out with Saul. And so he takes his mother and father to Moab. The king receives them, and David comes back, and at that point he leaves the cave. He and his men, they go to a forest, and they're on the run from Saul until the time when Saul and his son are killed. Now, you may ask yourself, how does this relate to finding your purpose? David has already been anointed the future king of Israel. Israel already has a king, but Samuel the prophet has anointed David with oil, letting him know that the day is coming when he will become king. And so in a sense, Samuel has already pointed David in the direction of his purpose. He's told David, your purpose is to be the king. But it's difficult for David to see his purpose because life is so rough for him. You know, he could very legitimately ask the question, if my purpose in life is to become the king of Israel, why am I having such a tough time? And why does the current king want to kill me? And the point that I want to raise today for those of you listening to this program is I want you to ask yourself, have I ever been like David? Has there ever been a time in my life when I had to really struggle to figure out what is my purpose? What does God really want me to do? And am I really on the right track? And sometimes when you're confused, maybe you're not confused. Maybe in the life of David, he was very sure that he was doing the right thing by going into a cave. But at some time in his life, and frankly, sometimes in our lives, people will pop up. They'll come to you and they'll tell you either you look like you're on the right track, or sometimes they'll come to you and they'll say, it's time to come out of the cave. You think the cave is your cave of security, but you don't realize that being in the cave is preventing you from what God has really set before you. And it's difficult because when you're in that stronghold, the cave-like environment, the cave represents your security. And some of us cannot reach our God-given potential because we're too content with security. And what kind of security? The security of a pension, the security of Medicare, the security of a job that you don't like, the security of a marriage you don't like. And sometimes we get so caught up in just being safe that we don't really reach our fullest potential. I talked to a man the other day who told me, he said, Reverend, I don't like what I do. I make good money. I've got good self-esteem. I'm treated well by my colleagues. I'm treated in high regard. But I'm tired. I don't like what I do. And what do you think I should do? And I told him, I said, man, I thank you for calling me. 2, I encourage you to pray on it. And 3, I encourage you to look beyond what you do. If you've gotten to a point in life where your life is not satisfying, then maybe you need to break free. Break free from what's holding you back. Who knows? Maybe the Lord is calling you to do something else. Maybe the Lord has a greater plan for you in your life. But maybe, just maybe, you cannot see what God has for you because you're so content with your security. And do not get me wrong, security is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to have a pension. It's a wonderful thing to have a paycheck. It's a wonderful thing to have a life that is predictable. But by the same token, there sometimes comes a point in our lives when we have to ask ourselves the hard question, what is my purpose? And what has God really ordained for me? And I'm going to tell you something about purpose. I want to be personal with you. I'm not sure that there's one purpose in life. I'm not really sure of that. Because when I think of my life has gone in stages. The things that look like my purpose when I was 17 are no longer my interest today. And the interest that I had even 5 years ago is being superseded by something else that God has shown me. This program that I'm doing right now, this broadcast, is something that I've been thinking about since 1976, 1977. Think about that. I was a newly ordained minister, and Ed Willingham, a reverend, the head of the Christian Communication Council, asked me if I would be the host of a TV program on the NBC affiliate in Detroit. And it was a public service program, but for me, I was, one, excited, but two, terrified. But three, I have been trying to figure out, for the last 47 years, how could I have a broadcast ministry? And would there be people around the country, people around the world, people like you, who are taking the time to look at this program right now, who could get something out of this message? I said, I'm not Pentecostal, I'm not apostolic, I'm not a Southern Baptist, I am a Protestant, relatively liberal Christian minister. But I believe that the Lord speaks to me too. And I believe that the Lord is speaking to me to speak to you right now. And I believe that you tuning into this program right now is part of my God-given purpose. I believe that the Lord set me here today to talk to you about the good news in Jesus Christ, to talk with you about the good news of the Holy Spirit, to talk with you about purpose in life, finding your purpose, building on your purpose, enjoying your purpose, and seeing the goodness of God through what God has in store for you. But frankly, my friends, if you get so caught up in your security, if you get so caught up in the predictability of life, like David being in the cave, at some point you need somebody like Nick Hood to come to you today and say, it's time to come out of your cave. It's time to come out of your shelter. It's time to come out of your predictability. It's time to shake free from the morass and all the things that are holding you back in life. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here today to preach the good news to you, to let you know that God has a plan for your life. And your plan did not stop when you were 17. Your plan did not stop when you were 25. Your plan did not end at 50, 60, 70, 80. At every stage of your life, God has something in store for you. Do not sell yourself short. Do not cheapen the promise that God has given to you, but know that God really wants you to do something great in life. God bless, God keep you. Stick around. I'm going to be talking with Dr. George Fleming in just a moment, and we're going to talk a little bit more about finding purpose in life. Thank you.
You know why I really love Nick Hood as a minister? I watched his father do it, and he took over for the church, and he was one of us, but he really turned out to be a great minister. I know it's hard And that's something that I know that all ministers may not be doing what they're doing because for the right reasons. But I know it's hard. I know he's a beautiful man, and we've been knowing each other for over 50 years. I believe in him. He's inspired me in so many ways to do what I'm doing and try to be the best at it. Make sure you watch Nick Hood's ministries. You'll never be the same.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.
I want to continue this dialogue about finding your purpose in life. And the story is from 1 Samuel chapter 24, where David goes into a cave, and the prophet Gad tells him, you have to come out of the cave. And Dr. George Fleming is with me today, a psychologist, who's also a member of the church that I pastor, the Plymouth United Church of Christ in Detroit. Dr. Fleming, how are you today?
I'm doing well.
I appreciate so much.
Thank you for having me here today.
You're welcome. I appreciate so much you joining me. And this whole question of purpose, finding purpose, I was starting to tell you before the broadcast that I invited a group of young college students who attend Wayne State University in Detroit. One of them is a member of the church, to come to church this Sunday. I said, if you come to church this Sunday, I'm going to preach a sermon on purpose, finding your purpose, and then after church, I'm going to give you a lunch, and I want to get your thoughts about purpose. And I'm just curious, what thoughts do you have about the human desire for purpose?
The human desire for purposes, I think, is very strong because people are looking for meaning in their lives or in life, especially if you're doing things that you think are important to yourself and to the people that you relate to on a regular basis. And society, world, life can cloud your view, and you try to refocus to a central point of your own being. And primarily that's based in what you see, so to speak, as your worldview or your life view. Is life messing with you, or are you doing things to create a life for yourself? Are you a victim, or are you a survivor? Because bad things happen to everybody. We all get knocked down.
Yes.
It's not the fact that you got knocked down, it's what you do when you get up that makes you who you are. Your purpose is created in the bad times because you're making a change in who you are. And the godly purpose of us, because I believe each and every one of us are working in some way on this earth in God's plan. And it may not be necessarily the plan we want. And we may suffer, we may die, our loved ones may die. All kinds of bad people, the things people say, why do bad things happen to good people? Because they can. That's the only reason. Because they can happen. Bad things can happen to anybody. But what makes you good is how you deal, or better, is how you deal with what happens. And I spoke earlier to you, and also I think on this program, about a person's self-concept. You have an ideal self. You have something right now that you are working on, and your choices make that. When you were a young man, You were making choices that got you to sit right in this chair. You could have made other choices that you may not even be here. Some other pastor or could be doing this show, or the show may not even exist.
But as a young man, I couldn't even see this.
No, but you were doing things that developed a path. And we're all doing that right now. And we're all doing it all over the world in some kind of rhythm, I do believe. That is the energy of life. And I think if you want to look at it individually, inspect yourself on your self-purpose. What is your self-concept? What is your ideal self? I spoke about that earlier. And then what is your real self? How far are you away from this thing you say you want to be? I ended up being here, double board certified clinical psychologist, little dwarf guy from New Haven, Connecticut, from poor people, mother by herself, third grade education. And through some things I talked about previously on your program, I ended up a National Institute of Mental Health Fellow at Michigan State University, completing a PhD. It wasn't in my plan, in my mind at the time. I was listening to Detroit music. I knew I wanted to be in Detroit. I wanted to be an electric engineer. That was my purpose in high school. We had a very good high school. We had electronics as a course. We built things. Now, this is in 1964. I was building a television, stereo. I built my stereo, all kinds of stuff like that. Howard University accepted me, but they gave me a partial scholarship. They didn't give me a full scholarship. Like I said, we were poor. My mother had a third grade education and she was a domestic. God moved to me. I got my money back from Howard when I got accepted. I applied to a college, Hillsdale College, based on a recommendation.
Hillsdale College in Michigan.
Hillsdale, Michigan, right here, folks. On a recommendation of a guidance counselor, he said, Fleming, you'll get lost at a large university. I was accepted at University of Connecticut, Springfield College, and Howard. On sports, I had University of Connecticut in Springfield, but I wanted to come to Detroit.
And tell the audience, what was your sport?
Wrestling. I was a college wrestler, and I went to Hillsdale on a college wrestling scholarship. Based on that guidance counselor saying, Fleming, oh man, you need to go to a small college. You can thrive at a small college. You get swooped up at a large university like University of Connecticut or a Springfield College. Yeah, you'll be in playing sports, but you'll probably get swallowed up because you've really never been anywhere. And he was telling the truth. All I had been was to South Carolina in the summer to see my aunt and back up to Connecticut on the train. That's all the places I had been. Through New York and hanging out a little bit, but no place really where I was on my own. Hillsdale accepted me. They found out I was a high school wrestler and a champion and captain of my team. They offered me a scholarship. From there, I ended up going to Michigan State University, which I had no knowledge of at the time I entered Hillsdale College. I had no knowledge of Michigan State other than football. I'd heard about it.
So would you say that your purpose evolved over the years?
Out of the hand of God.
Out of the hand of God. And I think that's one of the critical elements of finding purpose. You know,
of recognizing purpose.
Yes, to recognize that God has a desire for something in your life.
I feel in my faith that is true.
Mm-hmm. And so what encouragement would you give to our audience today? People are looking at this program from around the country and around the world. I'm sure there's somebody looking at this program right now, maybe younger or older, but may not be sure what God has really called them to do. What would you encourage them to do?
I can't speak to them of what God has called them to do, but I will speak to them on they should do something that in their basic core of feeling is the strongest thing that they can do for themselves for good. In a sense of good as in change something for better. That's what I mean by for good. Change something for better. If it's on a small scale, helping your neighbor who can't go to the grocery store, go to the grocery store for him, shop, bring something up. And that begins strengthening you to know and reach and touch others.
So doing something good for somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, a couple of weeks ago, on this show, I preached about the fruit of the Spirit, and how one of the ways we can draw on the Holy Spirit of God is to act out of that Spirit, that same Spirit, to be loving, to be joyful, to be peaceful, patient, kind, to be good, to be faithful, gentle, and to have self-control. We're about out of time right now, but I want to thank you. You've been with me for the last 3 weeks, and frankly, the 4 weeks prior. So
Yeah,
you've been with me
been working.
7 weeks. Yeah, I feel so blessed, and I hope one day in the future you'll come back.
I think so. It's an honor for me to be here and to speak with you. I've known you and of you before I became a member of this church, and as a matter of fact, when I met your father, he told me about the time he was in New Haven, and his roommate was a psychiatrist who studied my class in elementary school.
That's amazing. I remember hearing that story.
Yeah.
Well, look, thanks again for
Yes,
being
sir.
with
Thank
me.
you.
Okay. Folks, thank you for being with us today. If you've enjoyed the show, the broadcast, I want you to consider supporting it. We need your financial support to spread the good news of Jesus Christ. God bless, God keep you, and remember, I'm praying for you.
This is a new ministry which is just starting. Reverend Hood needs your help in sharing the good news of Jesus Christ and his power throughout the world. If you would be so kind as to send a donation to Nicholas Hood III Ministries of any amount, Reverend Hood will send you a free complimentary copy of his book of original personal prayers and beautiful photographs entitled The Test, The Strength, The Endurance, and The Way Out. We appreciate your support, and in this way, you can partner with Reverend Hood in sharing the good news of Jesus throughout the world. Please make your check out to Nicholas Hood III Ministries and mail it to 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201. Thank you for watching today's program. We hope you've been blessed in a powerful way. Just knowing you took the time to watch today's broadcast is a great encouragement to Pastor Nick Hood. If this broadcast has been a blessing to you, we ask that you mail a tax-free donation to Nicholas Hood Ministries at 4535 Chrysler Drive, Detroit, Michigan, 48201.